Hi, Vincent Hall, and welcome to another episode of our Featured Artist Series. This week, I am so excited to introduce you to one of our most well-known artists on campus, Mrs. Audrey Coles. Audrey is the matriarch of our art center. She comes into the room and the whole room lights up with her presence. She has amazing stories and amazing history in art and a wonderful outlook on life. So without further ado, Mrs. Audrey Coles. Thank you, Audrey, so much for being our featured artist. I have looked forward to this.
It's a great honor to be with you. Thank you.
Oh,
I love it. And I've always enjoyed art from a very early age. My passion was because of probably the color was so beautiful. I wanted to see the beauty in the world, the trees and the sky. And my mother took me to see the ocean. I thought that was the most gorgeous thing in the world was the ocean. Have you remember how old you were when you went south of the ocean? It was a long time ago for me. I went to Charleston, South Carolina.
oh,
But then when I studied the Indians, I was so excited about their feathers, their big long feathers. So I wanted to design some things like they did and make it better clothes. I wanted different clothes for us to wear, like the Indians.
oh,
I was very young then, but as I grew older, I became more interested and still interested in style of latest clothes, and I wanted to illustrate the way they dressed, which was to wear a hat every Sunday and gloves. We wore gloves all the time so that we would look pretty and neat and clean. I was born almost in the 20s, and the first thing that was so wonderful, the Congress added an amendment to the Constitution. The women got the right to vote. Woo! That was the biggest thing forever. But then I began to get very interested as a young child. I was in a small town in North Carolina. It was a beautiful little town, one of those towns where George Washington slept. I'm sure he slept here. It was Old Town, North Carolina was one of the colonies, so it was old. But we had a beautiful country club, and my mother always liked to dance, and she wanted me to love music. So she brought me a piano, and I learned to play the piano, and that was a nice thing. But my art came in a little later when we was discovering the American Indians and also the uh, e- uh, Greece. We studied also the stories of Greece, and when we were discovering the how to run a different kind of country from the having we had a president, we had to show how we set up the government. So we got studied all about the government. But then when I wanted to draw some of the pictures, and I had never had any art before, but I was able to make friezes to put up on the wall. So when they needed anything in my students drawn, they would turn to me to draw it. And then later on, as I grew older, I had a junior senior dance for the high school. And that was the night I met my future husband 8 years later at the junior senior dance. We went to school together. But World War II began, and it moved everybody all around. He went to the South Pacific, and I stayed in the South. Except one year I went to see all the museums in New York, and I had inspiration an inspiration to me, and I started trying to draw more. I took a picture of some of the pictures in the museum and tried to draw like that. And then we went back, and the, my husband came home, or rather my future husband, and we were married, and we lived in San Francisco. And after Truman dropped the bomb, we lived a short time in San Francisco. And then 2 years later, we had our first son. I had an older boy, and he turned and decided to be a doctor. And he's been uh, just now old enough to retire.
Oh,
We've decided Bill took the California bar. He was already a lawyer. He graduated in law, and it, he passed the bar, and we decided to stay in California. But before we could do anything, Bill got orders to Japan. So
oh,
in January, we left for Japan on a hospital ship Repose. At first I said, I can't go. I have a young son. And my husband said, but we have the doctors on the hospital ship, so you don't have to worry. Well, my son was just learning to walk, and we had to catch him in between the doors. They'd fall and get hurt. But he survived. We lashed the crib down. It went from one side to the other. Well, what of the experience we had in Japan.
wow.
The beauty of the art, for instance, Frank Lloyd Wright, did the Imperial Hotel, and I fell in love with the little Japanese houses. They didn't have any furniture, just a table. They sat on the floor and rolled up their little beds that were just quilts. Everything was spick and span. Now the roads there were very bad though, and it was they changed their shoes if it came in the house, and they had little socks that they put on and kept the dirt out of the houses. And we were invited by Ms. MacArthur to Tokyo headquarters, which we were able to do, but we didn't see General. He didn't give interviews or talk to anybody. He stayed in Tokyo in the offices. We, Mrs. MacArthur, entertained us with tea, but the art was the thing that inspired me. I was so passionate about that art that it was. Have you I first heard the bird's eye view when you look down in the corner, and they painted scrolls, little different from our usual paintings. And so I learned a lot about art from the Japanese. They loved their gardens. They had beautiful flowers and shrubbery, and they opened the windows to look out on the gardens because they wanted to bring the outside inside, and that was the way they charmed you with their gardens. Now after Japan, we were back in San Francisco, and then on the way home we came through China, and I rode a rickshaw through Shanghai. It was very dangerous though because the communists were coming this way on their way coming in.
Oh,
You could hear the guns in the background, So we boarded a ship called the Anderson, and we were the last of the uh, Americans to leave by the Anderson for,
Oh.
the USA.
Hmm.
And felt very lucky to get out of China. And then when we got back to America, we went back to Washington. At that time, there were not many cars, so the streets were free to park. And I went to a the American museum called the Cochrane. Have you ever heard of it?
I took classes there.
Yeah, I took a year painting and drawing and painting
Hmm.
at the Cochrane. And
Okay.
I wanted to stay there all the time, but I decided to go to work, and I did with the Army and the Navy. I started as a secretary and met so many nice people, but they moved away, so had ended up at the Pentagon. I, I worked with the Joint Chiefs of Staff, and while I was there, the work was very slow because they worked a lot at night, and I was interested in real estate.
Hmm.
So I read all the laws about real estate because there were so many of my friends looking for a house.
Oh.
And I think I'll be good with that because I'm the one that does all the hunting for a place to live. So I took them. I had to go to Richmond and pass the real estate laws, which took a little while to learn. But my first week in the office, I listed a house through my church. It was a beautiful little house in North Arlington, and it sold right away. So I said, "Well, this is so easy." I didn't realize that there were people that had different ideas from me, and but I, in my open houses, I would put up some pictures that I had drawn. And it made it more interesting when they came in and said, "Oh, there's an artist that lives there."
Oh.
And that was interesting to them. But the next thing I did, then, oh, I forgot to tell you that while we were in Japan, the Captain Benny Decker told me, "If you want to live on Officers Row, you will have to build your own house."
Oh.
Well, every morning a Japanese architect would come by my house, and we would go up on Officers Row, and there was a place that had been burned down. And just like Williamsburg, the only thing that was left was the corners of the house. So
Hmm.
I, I had told them how much I loved the Japanese house. So that's what we built, was a one-story, two-bedroom with windows all across the back.
Oh.
And we were looking down on we were up on the top of a hill, more or less, looking down on the hospital and the uh, uh, officers' mess. And it was a beautiful view. And that was the best thing I had done in Japan.
Well, that's pretty impressive. Building a house? That's impressive.
So then I began to work with the embassies. So I went into the French embassy, and that was so interesting. They, they were very sweet friends to me. And the next was the Italian. Well, I found two houses for Italians that they just loved. This was all rental. The ambassadors were only there for short time, so they did not buy it as rule. But I had one Japanese buy a house for me, and after that, he called me almost every other day. He was a little afraid of what he was doing in America. But I learned a lot about the Japanese at that time. After that, I my passion for art led me to the the teaching in Alexandria, that old place they turned over for the torpedo house that the Army had made torpedoes. They turned it into an art school and art gallery. So I would drive all the way from Arlington over to Alexandria, and I fell in love with all the paintings. The people were so interested. I did that as long as I could do, but it took me all day to drive back and forth to Alexandria. So I had to end up and find something else. And through my church, I found out about a lady named Carolyn Grosse Gallereshi, who was teaching watercolor. And, and she was teaching watercolor at the community house in Falls Church. And it was very reasonable. The price was just right. So I was lucky to be able to get in the class. And at first, I looked like a kindergarten kid compared to the others. So I had to work diligently. And one thing that Carolyn said, if you paint every day, you will teach yourself. You can find mistakes and you can learn. So I learned all the colors of the watercolor, the dots and the lights, and the colors that would enhance one another. And it was amazing how, but it took me several years before I really felt at ease with watercolor.
Hmm.
But we have, Carolyn took everybody to France and England, all over to paint. But I stayed here since I had already been uh, in those countries. But the best thing that happened to me when the art gallery was open here at Vinson Hall,
Oh.
that was the best day, Tuesday and Wednesday. I look forward to that more than anything.
Oh.
It was just, the people were all wonderful, and the teacher was so understanding, and she tried so hard to help everybody. It was fun, and actually, I learned a lot.
Oh.
My pictures that I brought today were all pictures that I had painted there this year.
Yes.
I'm in my late 90s, 98 and 99. I didn't think I could do anything.
And you're
But
still doing it now after we celebrated your 100th birthday. So
see, I'm almost 101.
I know in November.
I mean, yeah,
Well, I thought maybe we could look at some of those paintings and you can tell everyone about what you liked about them.
the snow was heavy and breaking the trees across the water.
Hmm.
Yeah, but the light in the background brought a contrast there, and it made it look like sun coming through.
Oh,
And
yeah.
The sun was melting the snow.
What I like about this one is even though it's snow, there's a nice warm glow.
Yeah,
Very nice, and it makes me happy. It's a warm painting.
but that I don't know whether that's a. I think that's I don't think that's acrylic.
No, I think it's watercolor.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
What's the next one?
The next one is the horse.
Oh, now this is the one I love.
Hmm.
I found this horse on my tablet. I was looking for horses to paint. It was fascinating. It had this white, creamy lane down the side. And in the shadow, it was in the shadow. So it had two or three things. The contrast is amazing to me. I love the colors of the background, the dark blue with the light green, and the horse standing there with the mane running down the side.
Mm.
A black horse, and the light is hitting the side.
Oh yeah, it's right here.
Yeah, that's the first time I had worked on horses.
Really?
Uh-huh.
Wow.
I drew that picture that you framed. It was just a joy.
Yes, I remember. I love that drawing too. Did you ever own a horse?
Uh-huh.
Oh, you had a horse?
That's my horse.
Oh, beautiful. That's great. All right, let's see the next one. Oh, I love this one.
Oh, this is a Christmas card picture.
Yep.
The little red house up on the hill is about to slide down for the and the green. You could have Christmas there. It was all the colors of Christmas and a little bit of flooding in the front. So it was one of the Christmas cards that they chose for Vinson Hall.
Oh, I remember they sent this one out to everyone that was representing Vinson Hall. That's right. Oh, it looks so happy and inviting. I like it. And here's another one of my favorites of yours.
Now this one has a lot of depth to it. I've always wanted to paint water coming down. I don't know whether I achieved it or not.
Oh,
I wanted to show an umbrella being used because of rain and the wind.
Hmm.
The action is what I was trying to get across.
I think that worked. I can see the rain and the wind there, and I like that the umbrella's red. It's a happy umbrella.
So that's what I was trying to show there.
I think that worked. Now this one we have 2 and 1, so we'll start on the left because they kind of go together, I think.
This is in Japan now. That's Mount Fuji. It's 1,000 feet up in the air, and almost every day it has snow on it. Mount Fuji. I spent the night right down below it because there was a hotel. I don't know what's there now, but look at the cherry blossoms.
Oh, beautiful.
They were all over Japan. You could reach up and pick up and put them on in your house.
Oh.
So many cherry blossoms everywhere. The wind is blowing them off here.
On this one?
The wind blows. They don't last very long.
No.
It always gets windy because it's around March.
All right, now we have this one.
Now this lady is up on the hill looking down on her garden. And she has that umbrella too. She's keeping the sun off.
Right. The opposite use, but that's good.
I feel like didn't have as much contrast as I could. If I were painting again, I would make it a little darker in one area down below and make it contrast. But it helps a lot if you get contrast there.
It does have an impressionist look to it, though, with the dabs.
You can tell the wind's blowing.
Oh, yeah, her scarf is, that's right. And then this last one, oh, I love this.
Here's my grandfather built this. He was a sheriff, and he had been taking care of the jail in the whole county of Pickens, South Carolina. It's in the mountains, right at the foot of the Blue Ridge Mountains. And he built this for his large family. My mother's family, there were 9 children.
Wow.
She was the baby of 9 children.
Oh, my goodness.
And her mother was smart. She could ride a horse when she was 80 years old. They didn't have cars then. And my grandfather had to drive 4 miles into town. He was an entrepreneur. He owned a dry goods store. He sold everything from seeds to plant to clothes from Boston.
Wow.
You could buy beautiful things there. And one day he said, I'm tired of driving 4 horses every night home. It's 4 miles into town. And my grandmother loved this house. She had a loom that she made wool, and she made clothes for her family. She made the cloth, then she took it in the backyard and put it into a big pot that dyed it to make a beautiful outfit for her husband, her children. She grew up very early, around the time of the Civil War, and before the Civil War, actually. And she was very capable of taking care of a family. She could sew, she could work in the yard, she could cook. Oh, she made the best biscuits. She loved England too, English food. Oh, we were Scotch-Irish.
Okay.
Our family was Scotch-Irish, and they came from Scotland. They were all Presbyterians.
Okay.
I did a survey for about 3 years to find out all about my family.
Oh, good.
Where they lived. I did the genealogy of both sides, and I took trips to go to. I went to the Mormon church and studied their library. But we have a wonderful library right here in Washington. You can find out anything. I found out that the reason I grew deaf when I was old was because same thing happened to one of my grandfathers years ago, and he was in the war. They made him come home. This was in the archives. The letter about my grandfather having to come home because he was too deaf to fight war.
Wow.
He probably saved his life.
That's true. That is true.
He wanted to fight, I guess. Now, the colors in this, the day I painted this, you were having a class in painting clouds.
Right.
And we started painting from the top.
Yep.
With the clouds. I never painted with that kind of paint before.
The acrylic, that's right.
Acrylic, yeah. I was a watercolorist, but I painted acrylics that day, and I learned so much. I made I think it's a nice picture.
Oh, I love it. It's beautiful. It's my, I remember this one, and I love the story behind it.
And it was my grandfather's house, and it's still standing, probably. It was the last time I went to see it. I wondered if I could buy it. The man said I would never sell this house. Grandfather had vegetables, but he didn't keep a lot of animals, everything. He said, I don't want to be a farmer. I want to be an entrepreneur and own business. But I love the paintings, the colors, and I'm very passionate about the colors. Thank you, Audrey, for sharing those paintings. They were so inspiring. I always love seeing your work. Anything else you'd like to share with the community? Well, I do have my husband's picture, but I wish I could paint portraits. Well, that's something we can work on. Painting people is the most important. And I love your pictures of your daughter's dress when she got married. All those gorgeous things. Thank you. Thank you, Melanie. You have inspired all of us to learn that we can do more than we realize. Oh, I'm just a facilitator. You have the talent, and I'm just grateful you keep coming down to class and keep working on new things. Oh, I love it. And have so much fun when I'm down with all of you. Well, we love seeing you. And it makes me think ahead of time. I read a lot about horses now, how much muscle and how many ribs they and that long face, 22 inches almost. It's long. They have the biggest head. If you ever go horseback riding, keep that horse head up high, because he goes to sleep with you. Yeah. That's what I found when I was. I'll keep it in mind. Oh, well, I hope we see you down in the Art Center soon. I hope we're back in session again. And in the meantime, I hope you're still working on some art ideas that we can do when you come back down. Okay, thank you. All right, thank you so much, Audrey. Bye-bye. Bye, take care. Bye-bye. Thank you. Bye. Bye. I cannot thank you enough, Audrey, for agreeing to be our featured artist. Your interest in art inspires everyone around you. Your work is magnificent. I've enjoyed seeing your progress and transition from only watercolor to also using acrylic. But your drawing skills are also some of my favorite things, especially the gesture drawings that you do of animals. I hope everyone's enjoyed this week's episode of our featured artist series, and stay tuned to see Audrey's work again in the slideshow that follows. Till next week, stay safe and be well, Vinson Hall, and we'll see you soon.